Why is camera 3 not on? It doesn't appear to be on, but maybe it is.
Yeah, I think it's working.
Good. Okay,
Okay.
let's get going.
Final set, please.
Welcome to another program in our series, Freethinking Forum. I'm Bill Weir, the producer and host, and I am delighted today to have with me from the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, its artistic director and principal violin, Kyu Young Kim.
Thank you, Bill, for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I have heard you and your concert mates making so much beautiful music over the years, and it's a delight to finally bring the man who has the responsibility of doing that large work of being artistic director, even while you are principal violin.
Well, it is a big responsibility. I often say that it's a pleasure and a privilege, but it's also, it is true, it's a stressful job, but I do my best to do justice to what a great orchestra it is and what a great audience we have too. So it's always been my pleasure, Bill, to see you in our audience so often and talk to you after concerts. And you've told me about this show and said, oh, you have to come on and talk to me on this show, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. I so welcome you. And I'm not sure I know when you first came to SPCO.
That's a great question. You know, I first came in 2001. I think that's when I officially started. And I was coming from New York and Cleveland. I was studying in Cleveland, but I was basically grew up in Long Island, so I grew up mostly in the New York area. And I remember driving here in December of 2000 and starting here in January 2001, and there was so much snow on the ground and it was so cold. I remember driving here with my, at that time, fiance, Pitneri Shin, who's a cellist in Minnesota Orchestra. And at the time, she didn't have that job either. But I remember driving into St. Paul, and we moved into a place that we had sort of rented sight unseen. It was before the internet was really fully going, and so a friend of ours in the orchestra checked it out for us and said, oh, this place is nice, it's right by the cathedral. So I remember moving into that place and then diving into all the concerts in St. Paul and being with the orchestra, and it was an exciting time.
Wow, yes, truly exciting to have to confront that snow and ice.
Exactly, yeah.
And I thank you for staying.
Yes, that's right. We stayed in spite of the winter.
Yes, and while after being one of the leading violinists for those years, there was an opening, artistic director. How did you respond to that?
Actually, it was called at that time Director of Artistic Planning. It was a senior management role that was vacated by my predecessor, whose name was Patrick Castillo. So it's primarily artistic planning, programming, working with artistic partners. And at that time I was sort of weighing whether I should stay with the orchestra. I had won a job with the New York Philharmonic, so I had taken an audition for that orchestra and gotten a job playing in that violin section, which is of course a wonderful orchestra, a storied orchestra. And I have family in New York, and it seemed like there are a lot of reasons to go there. But at the same time, I felt like the SPCO was such a special place, and each individual musician, because it's so much smaller, because there had already been this history of musicians being very involved in artistic decisions like programming, choices of artistic partners. I felt like, as a musician here, you could have such a bigger role in the direction of the orchestra. And that was really important to me. Before I joined an orchestra, I was playing in quartets, and that always felt good to me, of being in that small chamber music group and really being in constant dialogue with other people. I love playing in smaller groups more than I like just playing solo by myself or in a big giant orchestra. But the New York Philharmonic is a hard orchestra to turn down. But I decided to ask for that open position in the Director of Artistic Planning position. And I think I was able to sort of talk my way into that job, even though I didn't have experience doing that kind of work. I really believe in this idea of musician leadership, musician involvement, musician engagement, in more than just playing their instrument and playing really well, and sort of following the direction of a conductor, for instance. And somehow they were willing to take a chance on me at that time. This was back in 2013. So now I've been doing that administrative role for 6.5 years.
In addition
to playing in the orchestra. I don't play every week in the orchestra. I play 18 weeks. Most musicians in the orchestra play about 30 to 32 weeks. So I do need those weeks where I can just be in the office doing that kind of administrative work, or traveling to check out artists or work on other projects. But they're very different roles, so it does often feel like 2 full-time jobs. But it keeps me busy.
I'm so glad you can cope with the amazing challenges of that.
Yeah, well, what keeps me going is that the music is so great, and that, when you're able to actually do a lot of the planning work, and then you're able to also participate in the actual concert, and to play in the ensemble, and it's a really special thing that I get to do. So I really appreciate that part of it, and I have wonderful colleagues. And that also keeps me going.
And is there any other musician in the country that has that responsibility?
In the U.S., I don't think there is another person who has like that kind of playing role in the orchestra. There are some chamber orchestras where the artistic director might be the concertmaster, for instance, and have that kind of leadership role. But this is unique. I mean, my title, principal violin, means I usually lead the second violins of the orchestra, the second violin section. Occasionally I do lead certain pieces. And so it's an unusual title. Most orchestras don't have that specific title. But there's a lot of shared leadership in the orchestra.
Yes, that's a phenomenal participation of the musician, not being under one director.
That's right, yeah. It fits with the idea of a chamber orchestra. I mean, with an orchestra of our size, we have right now about 24 full-time musicians. We're trying to get up to 28. That's the maximum size of the ensemble. But generally we play anywhere from 20 musicians on stage to maybe 35, might be the maximum. But when you have that few musicians, every person's voice counts, and you want them to be engaged, whether they're concertmaster or whether they're playing in the back of the second violin section. There's no real back in an orchestra of our size. I mean, everyone's so critical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see the involvement as I talk with other members of the orchestra.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the SPCO has distinguished itself from other chamber orchestras in many ways. What are some of the others?
I think one of the things that separates us as an American chamber orchestra is we're the only full-time professional chamber orchestra in the States.
Really?
And I don't think any other orchestra in the States plays as many concerts as we do. We play upwards of 130 concerts every year.
Wow.
And we do family programming, we do educational concerts, we do concerts in the Ordway Concert Hall, our beautiful new hall that opened in 2015.
Oh, that is so great a hall.
It's a wonderful space. Yeah, 1,100 seats. Every seat feels like there's an intimate connection with what's happening on stage.
Yes.
Which is great. But we also play in about 14 different venues in the Twin Cities.
I've been to a lot of them.
I know you have been. I've seen you at many of them. So churches, we play at Humboldt High School on the west side. We play as far west, I think, as Wayzata Community Church, as far east in the metro area as Trinity Lutheran Church in Stillwater, and maybe as far south as Apple Valley. These are our regular venues. I mean, of course, we also tour. This year, we're going to Lincoln Center in New York and playing on the Great Performers, May 16th.
So your family can come.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll have a lot of family there. And we've toured internationally as well.
Yes. Do you have international travel?
Nothing planned for this year. We are working on something for next year that I can't talk about until it's fully confirmed. But we do look at those options. I mean, our last international tour was a European tour with former artistic partner Patricia Kopachinskaya. So we played in Italy, we played in Berlin and Vienna. That was over Thanksgiving in 2016. It was a really special tour.
Yes. Oh, and speaking of her, what you're recording?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we had a CD that we made with her on Alpha Classics. It's called Death and the Maiden, and it features mostly Schubert's Death and the Maiden Quartet, but has other interludes. And we won a Grammy for that CD in 2018.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you, thank you.
And you have another recording previous?
We have lots of recording projects sort of in the works. Nothing has come out since that CD, but all of our concerts are recorded by Minnesota Public Radio, and so that audio they're often broadcast either live or delayed. And we have this concert library.
That is a magnificent library.
Yeah, that's a really special thing. It's been an important artistic initiative and an important way for us to make our concerts accessible to many more people than we could ever reach through live concerts, people who can actually be in the hall. And so we stream about 7 concerts a year live from the concert hall. We have robotic cameras installed there. We made sure when we opened that hall that had the infrastructure to have a really sophisticated digital video recording system. And so we have HD cameras in there. And when we do those productions, we live stream it, but we also put it into our library. So it's called Concert Library, SPCO Concert Library. It's online, it's free. You just have to go to thespco.org and click on Concert Library, and you can see we're building this library. Now there's, I think, over 30 different pieces in that library, many concerts that were recorded live over the last 3 or 4 years. And you can watch a whole concert, and that's the whole point of it. All you have to do is register with your email address, and then you can have access to all those videos. There's no payment required. But our idea is that people will take advantage of that. They'll have that way of enriching their lives by watching these videos and really feeling like they can be in the concert hall. I think it's the closest you can be to experience a live concert. And another thing that we're trying to build, this is sort of our dream, is that when we play a concert in the hall and we have it's full with 1,100 people there, but that there are thousands of people streaming that concert live, like whether they're maybe in a hospice or a nursing home or a children's hospital or a library or or wherever it may be, wherever they are. They could be at home. It could be my parents in Long Island watching because they can't be here, or exactly anywhere in the world. And so that's the idea, that to share with that many people, and then to have them be able to say, oh, I saw this concert. You can watch it in the library and experience that. That kind of shared viewing experience and having that music affect people that way is really why we do it. And I think the video it's just getting started, but it's going to just amplify it. We're the first orchestra in the U.S. to do it this way, where we're putting it into the library, making it free.
That is magnificent that you have the financial backing
well,
to make it free.
We look for that funding and we asked people to support it, and I think they've really believed in that idea of sharing the music in that best possible format with as many people as possible. So, and as you know, if you put a paywall on the internet, you know, it kills the traffic to that site. So we just know that we need to make it as easy as possible, and you know, we just want to be able to stay in touch with those people who are watching the video. We want to know about it, you know. So that's why we ask for the email addresses.
Mm-hmm. Well, amazing that you only need to ask for those addresses, and not a payment of hundreds of dollars.
Well, we have generous donors in this community who really support the orchestra. That's why we're able to do everything we do. I mean, we play 130 concerts a year, and we make our concert, as you know, our concerts are the most accessible in terms of price. So we talked a little bit about the geographic accessibility, like playing in all those different venues. So it's
the
literally
entire Twin City area.
It's in your backyard that we're playing, but it's also free for children and students.
Yes.
I think most people they might have heard it, but I think maybe it's just too good to be true. Like they don't really believe it. But it absolutely is true. Children can come for free with an adult. So, you know, we say 6 to 17 plus all students. So students of any age can come. And people have really been taking advantage of that. When we first launched that, I'd say about 3 years ago, we quadrupled the number of young people coming to our concert. You know, and that's the future of the audience. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And you've built the younger audience into your plans, and
exactly. And I think, you know, the thing is, frequency of attendance is so important, you know, in terms of building the love of this music, building the understanding of it. And certainly for people who are going to support the orchestra going forward, unless they come regularly, they're never going to really want to support it. So, and if for children, you know, even for my kids, you know, my kids are 10 and 13, and you know, the love of this music grows over time. You know, sometimes it can be challenging for a child to sit through 2 hours of you know, classical music, but you know, they start to hear different things, they start to enjoy different things. Everyone comes to it in different ways. But I think we like to think that we make the SPCO concert experience the most inviting, the most inclusive that it can possibly be. You know, it's okay for parents to bring their kids, and you know, for them to experience it, and it's not always that way in classical music. I think sometimes people feel like there's a stuffiness to it, or like you have to get dressed up, and that's,
you're not,
you know,
stuffy.
No, we're not stuffy at all. No, we welcome everybody, and we want everyone to enjoy it.
And you do music that is unusual to most of us who've been fed classical music.
Yeah.
For so
we
long.
like to surprise people too.
Yes, and you have done that many times.
Yeah.
So, you tell me more about your own experience in being the only principal violinist who is also the artistic director.
Well, you know,
I think this would be inconceivable to some people in other orchestras.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not for every orchestra. I think there are orchestras where it's possible. I mean, if you take an orchestra like the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, based in New York, that I used to play a lot in. I was a member of that orchestra for a while. Everything is unconducted with that orchestra, and they've in their history, which is not quite as long as the SPCO, we're celebrating our 61st concert season this year. I think Orpheus has maybe been around for about 47 or so. But they've always been conductorless, and they found that because the musicians are so involved, they have a rotating system of 3 artistic directors at a time that are sort of voted in. And it's not full-time. Playing in the orchestra is not full-time, and also doing this kind of artistic director work is not full-time, but it is a lot of work. I mean, they put a lot of energy into it. And it's mostly a touring orchestra. Orpheus tours. It depends on each season. But for the SPCO, we're very firmly rooted in this community, in the Twin Cities community. And so, our hope is to share our music with as many people here as possible. I mean, the touring is vitally important just to maintain that level. I mean, we want it to be a world-class orchestra. We want it to be the best orchestra could possibly be, so that the touring is really important for that in terms of maintaining your level for those like extra special concerts that you might play at Lincoln Center, for instance, or in Europe. Recordings are really important, but the bread and butter of what we do is we play week to week in the Twin Cities. Let's say like the last 2 weeks, for instance, we played in the concert hall at the Ordway. We played 2 or 3 concerts, and then we also played at Temple Israel in Minneapolis, and we played at Apple Valley at Shepherd of the Valley Church. We played at Wooddale Church in Eden Prairie, 2 concerts. We played at Benson Great Hall in Bethel University up in Arden Hills, and we played at the UCC, United Church of Christ in St. Paul. So we played this program 8 times, and
I think you're doing 16 concerts in this month.
Oh, did you count them?
More than once a day.
More than once every other day. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. No, I know. It's an amazing thing that we do. And if you look at what we do, it's so varied. For instance, we had some wind chamber music on that concert the last couple of weeks. And we had a Beethoven string quartet that we arranged for the full forces of the SPCO. And they do it on their own. They just work from the quartet parts. They can play like a group of, let's see how many musicians were there on that. Maybe 17 players, or maybe 18 or 19 players that played that Beethoven string quartet. So they just were able to move like as one. Like it was beautiful to watch and to hear.
Oh yes.
And that's completely unique. No other orchestra has done that I know of, has taken that piece and tried to play it as a string orchestra. And it was without conductor, and our bass player Zach Cohen, who's a very special player. He created his own part just based on his own like great musical instincts and knowing the group. And so that piece, for instance, this week we have an amazing oboist and conductor from Europe, Francois Leleu, one of the greatest oboists of our time, making his SPCO debut. And we just had our first rehearsal, Mendelssohn Italian Symphony and some Mendelssohn songs without words. That's going to be a fantastic concert. The first one of those concerts we're going to do at Humboldt High School on Thursday. And that's part of a West Side community partnership that we're developing, and we're bringing our concerts to that high school and bringing in a very new audience there, because we want to reach that community, which is just a few miles from the concert hall in downtown St. Paul, but it feels like a different community. It is a different community, and for us to really reach that community, we have to go there. So, and to play there and to invite them in, and it's free for anyone who lives on the West Side. They have just a beginning string programming that this great organization, another one that we partner with, called Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphonies, GITSYs. They're one of our important strategic partners, and they've started a free violin program for children at the Riverview, the Riverside Elementary School, and they've had like 50 kids in that program, maybe even more, maybe 75 at this point, who've been learning violin through this free program of instruction. And they often, once a year, those kids play with the SPCO musicians on a concert. So that's another really special thing that we do. And so, yeah, we're keeping busy, for sure.
Yes, and surprising many parents to allow the children to gain so much from being with the orchestra or its partners.
Yeah.
Now, are you involved in the artistic partner selection?
Very much so, although it's very collaborative. I mean, we have a group for programming decisions called the Artistic Vision Committee. So on the management side, it's myself and our executive director, John Limbacher. And we have 3 musicians who are elected onto that committee as well, and they serve rotating 3-year terms. And so that's a really important committee. That committee meets to sort of look at all the programming, also look at the larger scale artistic visioning plans. And a big part of that is a roster of artistic partners. And then we actually, the orchestra votes on artistic partners as well. So it is very collaborative. But I do a lot of the work to sort of scope out potential partners. I'm involved in working with the managers to figure out when they can come and like what the plans could be, what the programs are going to be. So I'm heavily involved in that. That's one of the most important responsibilities as artistic director, is to sort of lead that work and to bring my colleagues along with me.
I'm so glad that you're managing to do this so well.
Well, I'm still standing, or sitting as we might say.
Yeah, we only have about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
What more do you want to say to the audience to help them realize the wealth we have here in the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, and how to take part in all of these benefits?
Well, I think the main thing I want to get across is that, if you have never been to the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, please come, because there's really no reason not to come. I mean, there is no barrier in terms of, like, let's say that you want to if you have young children, like bring your children. We want them to come to the concert. And
age what?
We say 6 to 17, but sometimes people bring kids younger, and that's, parents know their children, and if you feel like they're being disruptive, you can take them out and then try to come in at a different point. We also have family program, which is designed for kids younger than that. We have programs called like Explore Orchestra, Start the Music, and those are all free family concerts. I just encourage people to check out our website. It's thespco.org. I think I said it before, and not just for the concert.
THE SPCO.org.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And to look and see, the calendar has so many different things. There has to be something that I think will appeal to somebody, and people are always amazed. I mean, they think, oh, I can't afford to go to a classical music concert like that. Oh, they won a Grammy. No, then it's going to be too expensive.
Well,
it's not. Yeah, most of the ticket prices are $12, and there's a membership program. Actually, we should talk about this. Are you a member?
Yes. My sweetheart and I are concert members.
Yes. So this is maybe the best kept secret, and it shouldn't be a secret. You can become a member of the SPCO, and that means that you pay a monthly fee from your credit card or from your bank account of $9 a month, and that means you can choose any concert to go to that has availability. You can't subscribe and pick the same seats for every concert, but you can really see so many concerts with this membership. I don't know how many you see per year, but I think we've figured out that the average number of concerts that members come to is somewhere around 10 or 11 a year, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what we want. We want people to come, like, if they come once a month, then they're going to really feel connected, both to the orchestra and to this music. And there's no better value that's out there in terms of how to enjoy this fantastic music. And so we encourage people to take advantage of that and share it, and let people know about it. And I think with classical music, people just have a lot of preconceptions that I might not like it, or it might be boring, or there's so much to take in when you come to a concert of ours. I don't mean that it's overwhelming. I mean, there's so many different ways to listen to the music and watch the musicians and appreciate this great music. I mean, we're so passionate about it, and I think we try to have that come out to the audience.
I think you've given such a great overview that must be attractive to many of the viewers.
Well, I thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Kyu. And I hope you take advantage of this opportunity, draw other people to this as perhaps a basic introduction, but get to the concerts.
Yes, that's great. Thank you, Bill.